What's going on YouTube? My name is Ron King, back again with yet one more video. As always, if you enjoy the content, please leave a like on the video, comment on the video, and subscribe to the channel for related business content. Make sure you leave feedback in the comments as well. Now, today's video will be a reaction to an Elon Musk interview that he did with the Wall Street Journal. So will be looking into just his thought process, reacting to the different answers that he gives to these different questions. So without further ado, let's get right into it.
Elon, let's just start right with where John posed the question. I mean, you've spoken often in your career about how important it was for you as a young entrepreneur and innovator to come to America, and you've said there's no other country where you could have achieved what you've achieved today.
Definitely.
When you look at the U.S. today, the landscape, would that still apply in 2020? And are we broadly, as a society, doing everything we should be doing to foster that same environment that brought you here?
Yeah, well, I think U.S. is still great with respect to innovation and fostering entrepreneurship. Still great. I think we don't want to be complacent, and we want to say, okay, how can we make it better over time? And I think we want to be cautious about the gradual creep of regulations and bureaucracy. The rules and regulations are immortal. And if we keep making more of a year and do not do something about removing them, then eventually we will be able to do nothing. This is very important, and I think not well appreciated. This is sort of like the slow boil of the frog. You know, his frog doesn't jump out because it gets just slightly hotter each year. We should be aware of this, I think, particularly at the state level.
Yeah, well, I want to...
Real quick, I'm going to stop it right there. So I like what he said about the U.S. being just the best place for entrepreneurship. He says that he wouldn't be able to accomplish what he's accomplished in his life if he hadn't came to the United States. And that's absolutely true. I believe that anyone who lives in the United States is very privileged, and we need to take advantage of that privilege and really capitalize it. That's why the system is called capitalism. You capitalize on opportunities that are given to you. And just by being in this country, you're at a huge advantage. So you have to use that to your advantage. Now, he was also speaking about rules and regulations becoming more prominent. I know that his company, Tesla, had a problem with, having to stop manufacturing due to the COVID-19 pandemic in California. He said at the state level, he's talking about California, because they were trying to force him to shut down his factories. He didn't care, basically, and he just kept his manufacturing going on, kept running his businesses in California. And so, really, that was a huge power move, because it's like, what are they going to do? He's Elon Musk. What are you going to do? So we'll keep moving on.
I want to talk about that because you've been running into that some in California. But let me ask in a broader sense. I mean, you've been working with government. You do business with government now. You've expressed strong feelings about government, pro and con, at different times, depending on the circumstances. But when you think through an innovation lens in the broadest sense, what's the right role for government? Like, what is the role? Where should government be a player, and where should it be hands-off? What's ideal in your mind?
Sure. A lot of the time, the best thing that government can do is just get out of the way. And so I'd say that's the default, probably best thing to do.
Real quick, that is a very conservative ideology. He said basically the best thing they can do is get out of the way. And as far as business goes, I would agree with that. A lot of times government can get in the way with different things by just making things too complicated. You have to allow people to utilize the free market to release products and services that they think will, provide value and push the world forward. So I completely agree, actually. Obviously, government should step in when aid is needed, but other than that, get out my way.
Then after that would be ensuring that there are not artificial monopolies, that there is a fertile ground for startups, And because what can happen over time is that you can get regulatory capture by large companies where they influence the regulators and the legislators to favor their situation, and then you have a forest of redwoods, and you just can't the little little trees can't grow. I mean, if you look at, say, how many candy companies are there? Like, Big Candy is like consolidated into like 3 companies or something, and they also own all the dog food and the baby food. So it's like, when's the last time there was some good candy? What's the forcing function for a new candy bar? I haven't seen one in ages. So we got to watch this like consolidation that ends up resulting in lower responsiveness to the end customer. And like I said, it's like, you can think of like, in the limit, government is simply the largest corporation.
Yeah.
There's some people, I think it's a false dichotomy to look at government and sort of industry as separate. Government is simply a corporation.
So real quick before he goes on to that point, I just want to stop on that previous point he made about the consolidation of companies and forming monopolies. This is a very underrated point that he's making. He's making the point that basically, since these companies in these industries, like the candy industry, they consolidate and they buy their competition. Basically, they have no incentive to make better products. They have no incentive to innovate because they have eliminated their competition, which results in worse products and stagnation and just the same thing over and over again. So he's arguing for the removal of consolidation. He wants instead of a couple big companies, he wants a lot of smaller ones. Yes, it's good to have big companies, but if they get too big, then they become unstoppable and they really mess with the way the market should be in a free market. So let's move on.
In the limit, it is the ultimate corporation with a monopoly. But then as you get closer to, like I said, a monopoly, as the feedback loop gets weaker and less responsive to the customer, that's where you have something which does not maximize the happiness of people, which should be our objective overall.
You mentioned California, and I have to ask, you're in Texas right now, and there's been speculation, and you've been vocal this year on some of your frustration in California. Are you relocating? Is it happening? And can you talk a little bit about what's been troubling you in California so much this year since you mentioned it?
Sure. Well, first of all, Tesla and SpaceX obviously have massive operations in California. In fact, it's worth noting that Tesla is the last car company still manufacturing cars in California. SpaceX is the last aerospace company still doing significant manufacturing in California.
All right, so right there, I'm gonna stop it. That's pretty amazing. I didn't know that Tesla was the only automotive company in California doing manufacturing there, and then SpaceX is also the only aerospace company, operating and manufacturing out of California. That's pretty crazy. That California has fallen from grace so fast. Something that I'd like to talk about is the mass exodus of California that has happened really just this year. Um, and I think it was really due to the way that they handled the COVID-19 pandemic. They did not handle it in the best way at all. The government, the governor there was not operating in the right way. And it just wasn't a good situation. So you'll see um, a lot of people leaving, such as Joe Rogan. And I think Joe Rogan was the spark. He has such a massive platform, and his voice is able to reach millions and millions and millions of people every single day. So I think when he announced that he was leaving California, everyone just got up and left. They realized, what am I here for? The taxes are high, and I can't even leave my house. All these different things, and so everyone is leaving California, and looks like they are losing a lot of business. So just want to bring that up. Let's keep moving.
So there used to be over a dozen car plants in California, and California used to be the center of aerospace manufacturing. My companies are the last 2 left. I want to emphasize. So That's a very important point to make. For myself, yes, I have moved to Texas. Um, we've got the Starship development here in South Texas, where I am right now. We're hopefully going to do a launch later today, and then we've got the big factory development just outside of Austin for the Giga Texas development.
And you made the move really. But why? Why did you go there? Is that all a personal decision, or was it? It was partly a corporate environment decision, really, for the headquarters, isn't that?
Well, I mean, in my case, the two biggest things that I've got going on right now are the Starship development in South Texas, which was done. This was set in motion like 5 years ago, and then the big new U.S. factory for Tesla, which is called Giga Texas, just by Austin. So those are the two biggest projects. So these necessarily drive the use of my time here. Yeah, and then the other big thing for Tesla right now is the Giga Berlin. So I was in Berlin, spent a fair bit of time in Berlin working on that. Yeah, I think California is great. So there's a lot of things that are really great about California. Obviously, it's the biggest economy in the country, most number of people. But I do think that there is something that happens when, if it's, go back to the sort of sports team analogy, like if a team has been winning for too long, they do tend to get a little complacent, a little entitled, and then they don't win the championship anymore. So California has been winning for a long time.
That's a great point. I think that the fact that there's so many people in California, everyone, really used to idolize California. I remember I used to want to live out there, not anymore, but I remember it being just seen as this great place, with the great weather and, just amazing scenery and everything like that. But now it has become complacent, and also the way that things went with the pandemic this year, just not good for California. And basically, they got entitled, and basically now they're not winning the championship like Elon said. So pretty interesting how quickly things can change. Let's keep moving.
And I think they're taking it for granted a little bit. Yeah.
Let's talk a little more on innovation in corporate America in general. I mean, innovation has always been core to who you are. It's how you think about your companies and your role. In the corporate suite in America, are companies in general fostering and developing and innovation? And as the leaders in corporate America, you've got a lot of them on this call. Do we prioritize innovation as much as we might or need to? Do you think right now?
Are CEOs in corporate America focused enough on product improvement? I think the answer is no. And I think generally my advice or my recommendation would really be spend less time on finance, spend less time in conference rooms, less time on PowerPoint, and more time just trying to make your product as amazing as possible. There should be more focus on the product, the service itself, less time on board meetings, less time on financials. The financials come as a result of, like you say, like, what's the point of a company at all? And why even have companies? It's like a company is an assembly of people gathered together to create a product or service and deliver that product or service. And sometimes people lose sight of that. A company has no value in and of itself. It only has value to the degree that it is an effective allocator of resources to create goods and services that are of greater value than the cost of the inputs. This thing we call profit is should just mean over time that the value of the output is worth more than the inputs.
And it's a reflection of the quality of the product more than so if the product is good, presumably the profits follow rather than profits being involved versus profits. And
yeah.
Real quick, I want to stop it there. He brought up a great point. The interviewer brought up the point of, these companies putting profits over everything when really it should be product over everything. If you have the best product, if you have the best customer service, people will come to you and the profits will follow. So you shouldn't chase the profits. You should be laser focused on making sure your product is as amazing as possible, as Elon said, and then going from there. Because if your product is the best on the market, you will get sales. You will get people to buy into what you're selling. So let's keep it moving.
Sometimes people sort of have backwards, and if people are getting sort of the incentive structure is coming from the financial side of things. I don't know. I just earnestly would recommend to anyone listening that just spend less time in meeting rooms, less time on PowerPoint presentations, less time on a spreadsheet, and more time on the factory floor, more time with customers. And obviously, a lot of people out there are already doing that. But I would just urge people to say, like, hey, step back a second and say, is your product as awesome as it could be? Probably not. What could you do to make it great? And if you feel like think about innovation, like maybe it has to be like breakthrough innovation. I don't think it necessarily has to be breakthrough innovation. It's just like just make your product better. This is the thing that really matters.
Is that kind of product mindset, that the kind you described, is that learnable? Is it teachable, or is there an innate element that somebody has to have to really to do it well? I mean, not everybody's innovating or thinking on your scale a lot, but you look for innovative people when you hire them. Is it something that is pretty easily learnable, or
So before he goes on, he's asking, is it easy to learn how to be innovative? I wouldn't say it's easy, but it's definitely possible. Um, I actually came out with a video recently talking about how I create at least 5 new ideas per day just to exercise my creativity and innovation, um, and my ingenuity as well. Because I feel as though if you are not coming up with not product, if you're not coming up with new ideas, and you want to create that next big thing in business, and you don't have any ideas yet, you need to find a source of creativity and ingenuity, and that is in your own brain. You need to create it yourself. Sure, you might not be Elon Musk. You might not be able to come up with things like SpaceX and Tesla and all these different things that he's doing, but definitely you can come up with something that no one else has discovered. And you can make it a success as well. You just have to try. You just have to put in the time to become more innovative, and it'll develop with time. You'll see that your ideas get better and better and more free flowing and more creative as the time goes on if you exercise that muscle. So let's move on.
is there some innate quality in the people that succeed?
I think it is learnable. I mean, step number one would be try. and have you tried? And have you tried hard? And if you haven't tried hard, try hard. I think it is learnable. It's not some mysterious thing. It's just basically just be like an absolute perfectionist about the product that you make, the service that's provided. Seek negative feedback from all quarters. From customers, from people who aren't customers, like, hey, okay, what can we make this? How can we make this better? And I think it's absolutely learnable. And just if you find yourself spending a lot of time in getting presentations and reviewing spreadsheets, you're barking up the wrong tree. That's the effect, not the cause. So just get out there on the factory floor, get out there in the stores, talk to customers, think about what would you love to have. Oh, and sometimes I think, and I've had this conversation at Tesla a few times, where it's like we're trying to think, okay, we don't. It's at times like we don't love this product, but we think others will love it. That's not really how it works. If you don't love it, don't expect others will either.
And that's an amazing point. I like, first of all, how he said you need to be seeking negative feedback from customers, people who aren't customers, people who work for you. You need to seek that from anywhere you can get it, just so you can get more ideas of how to make the product better, which is the most important thing. And then he also talked about how If you don't love your product, then it won't be successful. Don't make a product just because you think others will like it. You need to believe in your product as well. That is extremely important. Belief in your product and then putting in the necessary work to push it forward is very important so that your idea will succeed. So that's about it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you enjoyed my reaction. I will leave a link to the video of that interview in the description box below. As always, please leave a like on the video, comment on the video, leave some negative feedback like Elon said, so I can make this channel better for you guys. As always, my name is Ron King. Have a great day. Peace.